The line's getting blurred, my dude.
Yeah,
it's getting hard to drop a no on a topic like this.
It's honestly what I hope to happen. I think it'd be very cool if all animated content was just called anime.
I think that is what, from that perspective, like from Japanese perspective, it is all just called that.
Right.
Here's the hoping, to your point, it just all kind of meshes from a global perspective.
It's like, what's Chinese food called in China?
Holy shit.
Food. Exactly.
Exactly. All right.
Exactly right.
I'll let you start. I'm going to clap this one up.
Welcome back to class, everybody. Professor E-Dog in the house.
I am your perturbed and disturbed Professor Ricky. I just got some very scary corporate news before we started this episode when I was just kind of...
That's not a good thing to say.
It's an awful thing to say. I don't like it. I don't like it any more than you like hearing it. It's not great.
Probably you like it less than I like it.
It's awful. So I was just informed that a new community is being sprouted up in the California area by a certain corporation. And have you run...
It's the Meta thing?
No, worse.
Oh, God.
Absolutely worse. Have you run into a Disney adult in your lifetime? One that's a little too hype about Disney, where their entire kind of personality is surrounded by the big mouse himself?
So I've definitely seen it. It's concerning, I think, when you see that. But, Disney's changed so drastically, even in the last 10 to 15 years.
Oh, yeah. They just gobble up all the IPs, and they just become...
Well, I mean, they got that. They have literally ESPN, and they've gone, like, woke-ish. So it's like, where... I wonder how they feel as, like, long-time Disney stans.
Right. How does the Disney adult feel in 2023?
My favorite is the 1954 Snow White.
Too fucking bad. They own everything you love. ABC? Nah, that's ABD for Disney. It's not even what you thought it was anymore.
Nuts.
Yes, exactly. So they are building a community, a Disney community.
So while that is terrifying, I thought you meant corporate, like as in your company, and I'm like, oh no,
this not my company.
This is the weirdest way to break this.
No, this is corporate news. Disney is building a Disney-centric, themed, and controlled community in the California, I guess, around or near Disneyland, I guess. And I was doing some research. Man, they have like beach clubs, entire shopping networks, like this entire, like, I want to say they were even flavoring the public municipalities of like education and medicine and all that shit. They're literally building a community for Disney. And I imagine that like Disney adults will probably be trampling over each other, literally clawing at each other's faces just to get an opportunity to live in a community that is controlled top to bottom. They even call their HOA like enforcers cast members. Like they're going to have like enforcers of a certain community lifestyle, aesthetic, everything. So if you are willing to suckle at the teat that is the Mickey Mouse conglomerate, then you can go live in this community that is top to bottom, left to right, front to back, Disney aesthetic.
You want that sweet mouse milk.
That mousy milk. I don't know what your thoughts on that. I hate the precedent that it sets.
Well, so
it fucks around with my head.
To be honest,
yeah.
Orlando already has a massive Disney kind of community.
Fair. They have like the surrounding area, not necessarily, yes, under their thumb, but it's not like copyright. Like copyright under the thumb.
It kind of is. You gotta go watch Defunct Land.
I love Defunct Land. Like
I've seen a lot on like the Disney kind of like, they have this whole Disney Beachland area that's like outside of Orlando, kind of that entire Buena Vista area. Like
yeah.
Disney pretty much owns every building in the entire area. So it's very much.
I hate this, dude. I hate it.
But like, as far as like a resort, it makes more sense to me than like, I want to live under Mickey Mouse's corporate
You don't want to live under the eclipse of the ears and just like under its shadow. Like, come on. It's this. They call it story living, not storytelling, story living. And they literally in the promotional video,
how much does it cost?
Oh, they did not specify because anyone who's going to live there doesn't need it to be specified. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to live there. No cost is too great. No actual drain. They want to own your soul. They want to own your entire generational life because imagine being, well, one, I just love the idea of like they breaking your house, like their front door down and being like, we heard you're watching fucking Netflix in here.
Yeah.
How fucking dare you? It's Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN, or die, motherfucker. If I smell Amazon Prime in this house, we'll literally
I swear to God, if you have NFL Network on there, we're going to kill you.
We'll burn this motherfucker to the ground.
We will
and your
burn
will,
you at the stake.
We'll literally rewrite your will to all you own goes to the great ears in the sky.
Me, Mr. Iger.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I couldn't. You could not pay me enough. Well, that's actually not true. If you paid me enough, I'd go live in the great embrace of the mouse. I think I would.
I mean, I don't like really California in general. But
I don't hate Cali. I like Cali a lot.
It's like a vacation place. I just can't imagine actually having to live there and pay those taxes.
You know, the East Coast blood in me, which is very, if not all encompassing, wants to agree with you.
Well, I couldn't live in New York either. The taxes would just,
Fair
I would
enough.
literally cry every month when I saw my, like, basically half my salary gone.
That's true.
I would cry like a little baby back bitch.
But yeah, let us know if you want to get in the Discord, patreon.com/Weebology. I'm doing it early. Let us know if you would live in this new Disney controlled community, and you too can live, not just live, you can story live, which is what they call it.
Well, I think the other thing about it is like Disney to me still is that old school, like Peter Pan, Lion
Willie,
King,
baby. Yeah.
All the like old school stuff.
Yeah.
And that stuff I really enjoyed probably up until like 2000, maybe 5, 6. They were still putting out good stuff.
Yeah, I would say so. There's that era in the early 2000s, late 90s of the B-sides, like Atlantis, Treasure Planet. Like that shit gets me riled for the past. I love that shit.
And I will say the Disney Channel movies pop the fuck off.
You're a DCOM guy? You like your DCOM?
Absolutely.
What's your favorite DCOM? Just if you had to put one up top.
Brink for sure.
Brink, I'm a Smart House guy.
I love Smart House.
I like me some Smart
really
House.
do love Smart House.
It was a fantasy that I think
the first yandere house ever.
It was the premier yandere for the normie. It's great.
I love that.
The yandere wifey, yandere mommy.
That might literally be why I'm so into yanderes now.
Because of the Smart House AI mommy that was controlling. Come on, she was a baddie that make you shakes on the reg.
Freaking Dami mommy.
It was a Dami mommy.
Yandere.
Dami mommy, house mommy. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, DComs were goated, man, and it's sad that they're gone. And now you can go live in your own Smart House in Cali.
Luck of the Irish, incredible.
Oh my God, even 13th Year. I was a big 13th Year guy.
Yeah,
Johnny Tsunami though was always a banger. Always a banger.
I actually think Johnny Tsunami might be my second one. I liked all the like action,
the sporty ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Into it.
So
yes.
Today's episode is going to be interesting.
Okay, yes, it will be. It will be.
But to start, I'd like to drop a pop quiz on our asses collectively.
I'm terrified of what's going on here.
So I'm going to have to lean forward here, and then I'm going to read us questions, and we're going to guess.
This got him leaning forward.
Yeah. So the first question is, what is Clark Kent's middle name? Thomas, Jacob, Joseph, or Walter?
Fuck, it's got to be Thomas. I feel like whatever his father's name was. So I think I'm going to go with Thomas.
Okay, we can go with that. I believe it's Joseph.
Okay.
Not
clearly not that.
The answer is?
Yep, it's Joseph. All right.
What is the name of the dimensional plane where Kryptonian criminals were exiled for their crimes? The Phantom Zone, No Man's Land, Zimbardo's Prison, or Bizarro World?
Buddy, you know this one. It's the Phantom Zone.
It is the Phantom Zone.
It's easy. That's an easy get. The Phantom Zone, baby.
The Phantom Zone was a dimensional plane where Kryptonian criminals were exiled for their crimes. It was discovered by Jor-El in Action Comics number 248 in 1962. Can you believe how fucking old Superman
That is yeah, he's over a century old at this point.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
What supervillain killed the Man of Steel in Superman 75? Darkseid, Brainiac, Lex Luthor, or Doomsday?
I'm going to go with Doomsday.
I think it is Doomsday.
I'm going to go with Doomsday. Yeah, let's go, baby.
That was correct.
Yes.
An alien behemoth known as Doomsday killed Superman after a 3-month hiatus on all Superman titles. All of them were relaunched with 4 new heroes, each claiming to be Superman reborn in some way.
Ooh.
Eventually, of course, the real Superman returned after being regenerated in the Fortress of Solitude.
Because the greatest crib of all time. The Fortress of Solitude is up there with the Batcave.
It makes you wonder, like, is there any stakes for Superman if he can just regenerate in the Fortress of Solitude?
Was there ever any stakes for Superman, period? Maybe there are.
Well, I mean, Doomsday kills him, so...
Clearly, yes.
In which Superman's sweethearts became the superheroine known as the Insect Queen? I don't know the answer to this, but Lori Lamaris, Lila Larole, Lana Lang, or Lois Lane?
Lana Lang. Easy.
You think so?
Yep. No cat. Easy. Look at this.
Okay, Lana
Look
Lang.
for the ding.
Correct.
Woo!
In Superboy number 124, Lana Lang rescues an alien visitor who has gotten himself trapped under a fallen tree. As her reward, Lana is given a ring, which endows her with the insect-like abilities.
What a weird ring. Continue.
She quickly decides to use her new powers to begin a career as a superhero and settles on the name Insect Queen.
Also not very creative. Continue.
Who is the natural father of Daily Planet editor Perry White's son, Jerry?
What the fuck?
Very long, like weird.
Also esoteric
sentence.
as fuck. This is going to be a guess.
Bizarro Perry White, Bebo Bibowski, Emil Hamilton, or Lex Luthor.
The fact that they go natural father, and I know in the comics that he's actually, this will be important for maybe what we talk about later, his particular aesthetic in the comics. I'm going to go Lex Luthor. The way they say natural father. I'm going to go with Lex Luthor.
Correct.
Yep.
Lex Luthor is Jerry's natural father. He had briefly seduced Alice White while Perry was reporting overseas.
So weird that they said briefused seduced. Like just enough to procreate, and then she's like, wait a minute, this guy fucking sucks.
Throw in a random NTR storyline.
Right.
God.
Good. Even DC has NTR.
Who created Superman? This is important for us today.
Okay.
Bob Kane and Joe Shuster, Jerry Siegel and Stan Lee, Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel, or Jack Kirby and Bob Kane?
I believe it is Joe and Jerry Siegel.
I believe you're correct.
Yep.
That is correct. They created Superman in 1933.
Okay, so he's 90 years old.
Yeah.
Fuck.
But the character was repeatedly rejected until DC, quote-unquote, national periodicals, Jesus.
Wow.
Finally took a chance on the Man of Steel in 1938.
How's that a fucking chance? The man is literally an American, like, Adonis.
So 5 whole years, they were doing the comic without it getting actually published.
Holy
That's pretty
shit.
insane.
That's insane.
That's also mad trivia. National periodicals.
With the original DC comics?
That's good to know.
Wow.
Number 7. What member of the Superman family died in Crisis on Infinite Earths? Supergirl, Jimmy Olsen, Superman, or Lois Lane?
I'm going to go with Supergirl, my dude.
I think you might be right. You are. You actually don't need my help. While other members of the Superman family simply cease to exist, Supergirl actually dies in Crisis on Infinite Earths number 7. According to Marv Wolfman, before Crisis, it seemed that half of Krypton had survived the explosion. We had Superman, Supergirl, Krypto, the puppy, the Phantom Zone criminals, and the Bottle City of Kandor, and many others. Our goal was to make Superman unique. We went back to his origin and made Kal-El the only survivor of Krypton. That sadly was why Supergirl had to die.
Had's a strong word, I would say.
When we're only gonna do 10 here because this is getting long.
Yeah.
When did Lois and Superman first kiss? This
Okay.
is interesting. Superman number 248, Action Comics number 1,
Absolutely not that one. Continue.
Action Comics 124, or Superman number 3.
I'm going to go with Superman number 3.
That's interesting. I think it might be Action Comics 124, but you were correct.
Ooh, let's go.
It didn't take Lois long to fall in love with the Man of Steel. In Superman number 3 in 1940, which we just established, it started in
2
38.
years after its official run start. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, he started in Action Comics, so
No, yeah, it was 2 years after he officially
Yes.
started with national periodicals.
Superman saves both Lois and a town from a flood, and she rewards him with a kiss.
The town wasn't the only thing that was flooding that day. Woo!
Yikes. This is like as easy as it gets. What is Superman's Kryptonian name?
Yeah, Kal-El.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
What
Easy.
was the name of Superman's birth mother?
Oh, do I keep the streak going or it dies here?
Kara, Zala, Lara, or Feora?
Oh, fuck. Kara.
I think Kara's his cousin.
Damn it. Ah! In the end. Okay, what do you think it is?
I think it's Lara.
Give it to me. You got it. Yep.
Lara was the wife of Jor-El and the mother of Superman, offered the chance to flee the impending destruction of Krypton by escaping to Earth with her infant son. She heroically refused to abandon her husband, remaining behind with him instead to perish in the cataclysm. I'm just going to say it. Bad mom.
Bad mom.
Fucking
not great.
horrible mom.
Not great choices made, but you don't make great choices in the times of emotional distress, I would say.
Yeah, so that was 10 questions. And what was the common thingamajig there, bud?
Oh my God. Wait, hold on. Can you scroll down real quick so I can see them all?
No.
Oh, yeah, I'm scrolling. Okay, cool. All about Batman. Are we talking about Batman today?
We are talking about the 1995 classic Batman and Mr. Freeze.
Today we are talking about a series that kind of gave us pause when we started. Well, Ethan started watching it and I gave it a viewing, and we're going to do a segment we haven't done in a while called Does It Anime? Our segment where we take a look at non-traditional Western or other global animated series that do have a little bit of the anime spark, a little bit of the Japanese animation charm, and we decide whether it does or does not anime based on what we see. And today we are going to be talking about the HBO Max, now formerly known as just Max, the dumbest name switch ever, with the 2023 show by Studio Mir, My Adventures with Superman. Now, Studio Mir is quite an interesting thing when I've discovered it, because they are the ones who did not only Legend of Korra, not only Voltron, but they did 2022's Lookism as well. They're the ones who put that on, and you had mentioned that an episode or two ago. Now, they have taken on a new challenge to do My Adventure with Superman, and gotta tell you, buddy, we gotta do it up top before we rip into it. It's pretty anime. Like, I don't know really what other way to slice it. It's doing a pretty damn bang up job of giving the anime vibes here.
Yeah, so I think it certainly passes the initial vibe check, and we'll talk about it more as we go through here.
For sure.
As it sits today, there's only 7 episodes out.
Right.
A kind of a weird thing is it is if you have like traditional cable, you could watch this on adultswim.com.
Also an interesting pick because they traditionally do pick up a lot of anime IPs. So
right, and
there it is.
They were very into the like WB Pictures, which is like the overarching studio or a producer, whatever you want to say for this.
Mm-hmm.
We have mentioned many times in the past that WB is probably the strongest proponent for anime-like, I guess, animation and art inside the U.S.
Yeah.
As seen from our previous title where we watched Batman Ninja and then a few more things like that. They also made my favorite, I guess I would call it, Western cartoon of all time, which would be Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah.
It's a very short show, but it really just like pops the fuck off every single episode.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I was hoping when I started this was that I would capture some of that here. How I found out about this is because I do not have, or I don't really watch HBO Max very often. Do you know if they bought Cinemax?
I think they might have.
They must have. Otherwise, why would you be like HBO Max if Cinemax still exists?
We can bring up Twitter as a counterexample for IP and major brand name switches, but
but like, there's not another X company as far as I know.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Anyway, so the point is going to be that this is not the easiest thing to watch.
Yeah. So access is what you're saying.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like as far as like actually like going out there and watching it, you can watch the first, I want to say 5 or 4 episodes for free on adultswim.com, regardless of whether you have cable.
Gotcha.
And then I believe you might be able to go through like if you had like Hulu TV or YouTube TV and just like on demand watch it that way.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying all that to say it's like not the easiest thing to like get a hold of.
True.
I was looking for just like random, free streams. Not a lot.
I can't imagine there are. And I mean, it's one of those things that's like we've seen it maybe in the past, but never really brought it up. That I've found that animated shows that originate from a Western production company or Western studios are actually shockingly hard to find through non-legitimate means than anime in general always has.
Right.
And I think it's just because of something like illegitimate means for acquiring this kind of content is based on the community that which seeks to find it. So either everyone has cable, Adult Swim, Max of some sort, a friend with Max, you know what I'm saying? Anyone that would be even remotely interested in something like My Adventures of Superman. So, yeah, to Ethan's point, not exactly the easiest show to find, but if you're a privileged few that has cable in 2023, or you actually seek it out on something like Max or Adult Swim online, I think you're in for a pretty interesting ride. I would say
a fucking treat. So, yeah. I'm just going to start by saying what everyone wants to hear.
Tear it off, dude.
The reason that people are watching the show
is
because Lois is a tomboy.
Absolute tomboy dime right
baddie.
Now. She's a baddie. So the way that they have structured this, the character designs in the show is rather interesting. You have Clark Kent, the Man in Steel himself, who is absolute nerd female gaze bait kind of situation. Dude's built like Superman, 6'6", brick shithouse,
absolute brick shithouse.
And it's one of those things that, one, you have Lois, who is this kind of olive skin tomboy, absolute 10 out of 10 smoke show, like assertive chick. I actually just recently finished The Owl House for the first time. She reminds me of Luce. That is only for people who give a shit about that show. But the character of Lois has been kind of 2023ified in a way that doesn't feel aggressively communicative or signaling. It is great to see the reimagining of these characters in this way. But the problem I have up top, it is not a bad problem. It's more of a facetious one. How the fuck she don't know? She does know early, but how the fuck she don't know like off the rip? The dude is a fucking brick shithouse.
So, okay. They actually, I think, do the best with this version of Lois Lane than a lot of the other ones, except for evidently the one in the actual comic.
Yeah.
Superman 3 is pretty fucking early.
It's literally 2 years into his entire existence she figures that shit out.
Well, we don't know when Lois Lane started. Did she start in Action Comics 1, I don't know, 50 or whatever the fuck?
That's a good point. Yeah, good point.
But so a show that I absolutely love, and I urge everybody to take 10 seasons worth of time to watch, is Smallville.
Smallville rips, dude. I watched it as a kid.
Smallville
that
rips
great.
Immensely fucking hard, but they do sort of a similar thing with Lois, where she is like definitely tomboy.
Yeah,
but she's also a fucking like smoke show to the nines.
Easy. Yeah.
But her father, I guess canonically, is in the military, so she grew up being like, kind of out in the woods, orienteering and doing all that kind of shit. And in Smallville, she don't take shit from nobody.
Which I think if you're going to make a Lois Lane, and I think phrasing it that way is important for the show we have on our hands, you got to have her be an assertive kind of like go-getter type.
Absolutely.
She can't be passive, because in a show with archetypes like that's trying to do the Superman story over and over and over. Every time you have a Clark Kent, he's trying to be in the background. He's trying to be a passive player when he's Clark Kent. You need an active foil like Lois Lane when he's not Superman. And that's what makes her a great character in all the iterations that I've personally seen. So they do it great in this show. They do it great in Smallville for sure. But this show, they do it, and they don't muddle around with the idea of like, who is he? Who is Superman? They fucking get to the point, man.
Yeah, and,
it's great.
And I think one thing that's pretty interesting here versus what you see, I think, typically in this origin story, is they also put him at kind of an interesting like spot in his like, I guess, trajectory, where he's really like in the like early kind of parts of this, like. He learns that he has powers. He's super fast and can fly when he's a young boy.
Right.
But beyond that, it seems like he's only gaining more abilities and maybe gaining more competency in those abilities when people are in like super need of help. Which I think is it seems like a kind of an interesting way to do this, where it seems like his spaceship is releasing powers to him as he needs them.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing from that is that they've married the philosophy of Superman with his progression as a hero and as a super being, right? He only really seems to further himself in great moments when people really need saving. And that's always been the kind of the very polar north philosophy of Superman, right? He is a person who was raised very, positively with great parents, with the Kents. And he wants to save everybody. So as a man who has all the abilities, but has all this philosophy of wanting to do it, he's got the philosophy first. So as he's growing, he's put in situations where he's pressed, and because other people are getting put in danger, so he then gets a new power here and there. He gets drip fed. He gets drip fed even new lore and new memories that he maybe not necessarily like bottled, but he's getting like kind of new glimpses of like, I remember you from when I was young, or I remember this thing from when I was young. So they're doing this really interesting like pacing dynamic, which I think is probably one of the better ways I've seen this paced out as the growth of the Superman character.
I meant to say this all to say that he doesn't have full grasp of his powers.
No.
He's sort of like learning as he goes. And what's cool about that is that allows Jimmy and Lois to kind of get in on the ground floor with him here and kind of grow in the story with him, which is, I think, gonna provide like a lot of interesting situations for like their burgeoning romance, right? He's gonna be trying to figure out stuff while she's trying to figure out stuff about how they're gonna like interact.
Oh yeah, they really threw a slick, doesn't seem ham-fisted at all, like a slick rom-com, almost at times slice-of-life-y element to the way that they operate, and it feels very well balanced here.
I will say Clark has some absurdly smooth lines.
This man's rizzed up to the nines.
He is
ready to
master.
Go. So there's something, before we kind of go into the later parts of what we see so far in this show, I wanted to bring this up to you because something I noticed about the character of Superman versus other superheroes that I've noticed, even across Marvel and DC. We get certain series and movies with the origin of Batman and with the origin of Superman and the origin of Spider-Man and stuff like that, even the origin of Hulk. But we also get stories that are like midway through their journey. Like we get midway Spider-Mans, we get midway Batmans. It's weird to me that I keep seeing reboot after reboot and a very low amount of midway through Superman's journey. And I wanted to bring this up to you as a question. Do you feel as though a character as powerful and as insane ceiling as Superman in the comics is just hard to make someone midway through their journey or their big moments like against Doomsday or stuff? Or is it just because his origin story is that like magnetic? Like just small town guy figures out he is like a god among men and it's just that engaging? Or is it just hard to do a mid or late game Superman because of how fucking strong he can be compared to everybody else?
Yeah, we've talked about this, I think, before, probably off mic, but I think stories like end of series Superman, let's just say,
are
probably more difficult to tell because at a certain point nothing can kill the fucking guy.
Like how do you make that relatable at that point?
Or like really all that interesting.
Yeah, right.
I think they talked about it there. Whoops, whatever. There's like some war or whatever later on, right? Infinite crises or crisis of infinite Earths.
Yeah.
And like people are fucking dying non-fucking stop.
Oh yeah, yes.
And it's like okay because like the rest of the Justice League, of course, isn't like invincible.
Exactly.
But like Superman still is pretty much off limits to any real death scheme.
Right. And there's that famous monologue that you can see of like the I don't know who is the DC animated voice actor for Batman, the really famous one next to like Mark Hamill's Ray Conroy. There's that monologue. You can find it on YouTube of him like describing how to kill the Justice League in like an audio log.
Yeah, that one's so good.
It's really, really good. And he talks about his ability to kill Superman by shooting something into the sun and make it radiate the frequency of kryptonite. Like, and basically the sun, which is the source of power, becomes the source of his death, which is interesting. Like, I feel like there are interesting tales to tell of late game Superman, which I want to bring up a little later in our dissection of what we have in this show so far. But yeah, to your point, it's really hard to tell a story of a guy that is literally a god in his late stage. So you almost have to keep reimagining the same early segment. I wonder at what point can a series just like latch on enough for it to actually go all the way into maybe some moral crises that we may see in some other tellings of Superman. But I like to see this series do it.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for that, I think there is like The Adventures of Superman, I think, or it's called like Superman animated series.
Okay.
And then obviously Justice League Unlimited has really good Superman stories where it's kind of odd because Justice League Unlimited does something interesting where it's really like the superheroes sort of pull back from society and they all go live in the like space laser.
Interesting.
And then they like come down to Earth only to like stop supervillains and to do shit like that.
They kind of go full if Avengers gave into cloister. They gave into like Geneva Accords or whatever
right, exactly.
Yeah, or whatever the Accords.
They sort of pull back from society and they kind of like really deal with like inner superhero shit.
Interesting.
And that's kind of interesting. Of course, he's still like, dicks down Lois Lane whenever he gets a chance, but
come on, you're Superman. You do what you want.
He does his thing.
Yeah.
But this, I think, is really trying to be more of that slice of lifey, and I don't think it would work with an end of series Superman. I mean, like literally, the series title is My Adventures with Superman, so it's really
the implication being it's almost like
Lois Lane's point of view.
Yeah, Lois, and by a slight extension, Jimmy. And I wanted to bring up the character of Jimmy in this series. I really, I have this weird cognitive dissonance with the character of Jimmy that like they really need to give that guy his own bag in this show. Like, I know Jimmy Olsen is meant to be like the OG friend of Superman, like in the comics, I presume. But in the way that the show is constructed, because of its front loading of the rom-com with the coming of age story of Superman, Jimmy feels left sometimes a bit on the outskirts. He gets his moments with like the science monkey and all that stuff. But sorry, science ape, my bad. But all that being said, I want him to get his own bag a little bit in the show, and we're already kind of in the second half of the season.
Can you explain his own bag?
Well, I feel like he's only like up to this point. It's been like, oh, like I'm over here saying, Lois, you like him, don't you? And then he's like, Clark, you like her, don't you? So he always seems like he's not just third wheeling like their rom-com shit. He's also third wheeling their like the progression of Superman himself. Like, remember that moment where they finally he shows them the spaceship and like Lois and Clark are having their moment together and he's just riding around like literally dry humping an obelisk because he's nerding out over the alien tech. Like, funny, but I think that Jimmy canonically brings more to the table than just this, right?
I mean, I think in general he does really fall by the wayside toward the like Kal-El and Lois Lane story.
Sure. Okay.
And I think here I don't know really what the plan is with him, but it feels like since it's My Adventures with Superman, they could have made it from Jimmy's perspective, which would have been really interesting.
That'd been an interesting take for sure.
Like him figuring it out even before Lois kind of thing would have been cool to watch.
Right.
Or like you see him maybe in college, like he said, I think he figured it out very early on, like the first day he met him in college or whatever.
You ripped a door handle off, and the door handle was like gripped in half.
Right.
Like you didn't just break the door off; you gripped the handle so hard that it broke in half in your grip. Like,
so it could have been
interesting
to watch like the progression of like this guy's weird to like him turn into full flame bird conspiracy guy.
Right. So I like,
but I do think like his eventual like impact to the story is probably going to be low, and it's really going to be about the like burgeoning romance is my guess.
What I would love to see is while Lois and Clark are having their kind of rom-com, their struggles there, and Kal-El having his struggles of finding out his identity and his origins, Jimmy could be the one to discover the true maybe endgame evil in season 1 or like overall. That would be a great thing for him, because I'll tell you right now, I think he's objectively a better reporter than Lois in this show. Lois is a baddie. She's very assertive. She's great. She's a great fit in this show. I think Jimmy could be a better like actual reporter, journalist than both of them put together. I think if he found that bag and like, look, Clark, dude, Superman, like, I just found what is the source of all this bullshit. He could be the progenitor of like all that information. The guy in the chair, so to speak,
I think that'd be cool. I don't know if that's the direction they're going with him. I think he's really just the gag character. Like which is
sad. He's such a fun character, though.
Ice cold anti-Rizzler for the first 6 episodes.
Yeah,
he was like the worst wingman in history.
He did have that moment.
They'd be like about to kiss, and then he'd like pop up from behind the couch. Yo, what the?
There was that moment. You're right. That was episode 2. He like popped up from behind the couch while he's Clark has the most cold game of all time, ready to absolutely land this one with a perfect 10 stick the landing, and then Jimmy pops up and breaks his kneecap and just is like, hey, what's up, friends?
I mean, Clark is like Bassmaster Bob out there.
Absolutely reeling him in.
Yeah, winning like Bassmaster Pro. And Jimmy just comes up and he's like, hey, didn't you put weights in your bass? And they're like, oh, fuck.
Motherfucker, this guy's DQ'd on the spot. Fuck.
Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't hear. Are we going to get some bass lore?
This is like so stupid, but there was a huge controversy in the bass catching pro.
Where, dude, my neck just whipped so hard left. Let's go. Give me the bass lore right now.
There was a team that would basically the bass fishing for whatever reason is getting like fairly popular.
Because fishing is fun.
Yeah, but it's getting popular so that people are getting paid like pretty decently large payouts. And people would put lead weights in their fish so that they would be like, like 15 inches long, but like 6,000 pound fucking bass. And people were like, wait a minute.
How the fuck did they make that work? Like, how do
they did it like reasonable, not like what I just said.
No, I know, but how do you put lead in without anyone seeing? You're on fucking camera.
Well, so the way that it works is you individually go out in your boats.
Oh, and you bring it back and officially have a weigh.
Your weigh-in is like with everybody.
Those motherfuckers.
I mean, it's just like
those motherfuckers. That's inhumane too.
Yeah,
like just cut the.
Well, they're already dead.
Well, I guess gut the fish and put the lead in. Well, god damn it. All right, well,
but it's just funny. It's like anytime there's any way to scam some money out of something, people are gonna like start cheating.
And Jimmy is scamming Clark out of his fucking bass trophy right now. Which is he's just throwing lead.
That was exactly what I was trying to say.
Roping it back in. But he does learn. There's that moment where like they try to have that date in like episode 7, and basically he tries to he's like, hey, it's super late, gotta bounce, y'all do your thing.
Yeah.
And they start just absolute macking in the alleyways. Like, you want to get coffee? And she's like, no, I want to taste something different.
Yeah.
And then just like boom, mac. But that last episode was actually kind of interesting because up to this point, we're getting like the rom-com stuff and we're getting like the Superman stuff. This pretty, I would say, well done, but also very typical storylines. We got an interesting story, like B-side of like technology like is being furthered in this world. We have an Amazon surrogate, which is Amazotech, which is literally just Amazon drop the end. And
did you think it was hilarious that his like idea, his final idea was to come out with this, like essentially this suit that takes you over to makes you like superhuman, and he named it Parasite Suit. It's like, why
Parasite
would I want
1.0.
Why the fuck would I want that anywhere near me?
Yeah, put it on and you'll become Superman at the expense of your own like life force,
soul and dignity.
And we even see it because like at the end he doesn't have enough energy to sustain it, so it just like sucks him dry.
Yeah.
So Superman rips all the shit off him, and he actually then finally looks like Jeff Bezos,
or like a raisin,
a raisin Jeff Bezos, and it's so funny, like really on the nose. But as you get into it, you're almost starting to get like
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos. You get this kind of interesting like multiverse shit that they drop, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because they don't drop the Superman multiverse. They drop the Lois Lane multiverse. That's right. It's like the Citadel from Rick and Morty, but with Lois Lanes. Like, why? And the occasional Jimmy Olsen, which is like insane, like to have as a dynamic in this show. I don't know.
So I mean, I think that's where you like obviously can tell this story is supposed to be from Lois's perspective. She's the actual protag.
Yeah, she is.
Clark Kent and Superman are really just like a tack on, like 1A, 1B scenario. Even though like most of the show is from Clark's perspective, it's a very interesting like way to go about this.
Yeah,
where like clearly they put a lot of effort into making Lois like that bitch,
that girl, absolute girl boss, gaslight. Right. Let's get it done.
And
like,
so, but they're still having the main character be somebody else. It's kind of an interesting look at it.
I like it. I just think
it'd be really fun to be from the perspective of somebody trying to figure out whether he's Superman.
Right.
Exclusively.
That was what I was going to bring up, is that maybe they had this really interesting idea of subverting the Superman trope of putting it from the perspective of Lois Lane very front and center. And there's certain moments in a second that I think highlight why this is great. But to your point, by blowing their Superman discovery load in episode 4, you kind of lose a little bit of that luster. But again, I think they realize that like the trope of like he just has glasses and a different haircut. There's no fucking way that anyone with eyes and a pulse is going to not realize that this absolute brick shithouse Adonis dude who just casually works for the planet is not the dude. They even have that scene where he goes and gets his bagel, and then she looks on Instagram and like, and the radio's going at the same time, like calling all units of this spot. JK, we're actually good. Superman's good. Yeah. And he immediately comes back in the room like, oh, I got my bagel. Oops, need the cream cheese because another thing happened. And then like, oh, we got another attack. JK again. Superman's fucking on it. And he comes back like, got my cream cheese. Like they're really ham-fisting. So I think that was for the fun, the comedic effect, and for the pacing, it was good. But for the use of Lois Lane as the primary perspective, it was a bit of a downer to see that thread gone immediately. However, all hope is not lost, because in episode 7 we get the other interesting drop from Lois's perspective. She did discover from the Council of Loi, I guess is our plural of Lois. She gets the secret file and realizes that the same way, as she puts it, that not all Lois Lanes are Pulitzer Prize winners, not all Supermans are good. And she's kind of now wrestling with which one is mine going to be.
Right. It's kind of an interesting thing, because I recall that being like a main plot of the original like Superman, is like, oh, he's spent there to like rule the world.
That's kind of, if
very
anyone's
Invincible-esque.
I was gonna say Invincible, Omni-Man, like they're very I don't know, elitist, I would say fascist in a way. They would just go there to destroy and take over kind of thing.
Right, but then I kind of can't remember if like that's just Invincible in infecting my brain.
I think
or if that was an initial timeline.
I think Invincible is a hyperbolic take on, I think, the idea of the Kryptonians being, some of them probably having the philosophy. They just made the Viltrumites like an entire planet of those motherfuckers, I think.
Well, I mean, Zod clearly is like a bad guy.
See, right. He has the philosophy. Whereas
He's a bad guy.
We have the Goku effect, right? You have the Saiyans, right? Vegeta's coming down like, this is our fucking job. We're freelance planet destroyers.
It does make you wonder, is all of Dragon Ball Z just like a
There's
Superman
definitely
clone?
It's definitely Journey to the West meets Superman for sure.
I think it's just Superman clone. So as far as like, does this anime, there's a few scenes that I think show like it shows they are going for that aesthetic.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I believe it's episode 2 or 3 where they find out that they've been edged out of the Superman story, and Lois finds out, and then she does like big ass eyes, super exaggerated kind of expression, like absolutely anime girl.
Yeah, right.
All day long.
Yeah.
So I think that this is kind of an interesting case where it has the vibe for sure throughout, but there's like certain like scenes where they're just throwing it to 11.
Yeah, and I can't tell if moments like that make it feel borrowed rather than it is what it is, you know? Like
I think it is what it is.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, the character designs and the way that they employ some of these animation techniques, I find very interesting because you'll look at this show and it has what I call that quasi-anime aesthetic. There's Legend of Korra, there's Voltron, there's other shows from this particular studio, but others like it that you look. It's like not uncanny valley, but it's one of those things that you can't describe why it isn't anime until you look at it from. But when you see it, you know. And I think part of it, from let's get anime snobby just for 60 seconds here. The eyes are not anime enough. It still is very grounded in a
Why? Because they have blue eyes. You bastard!
You know, so many anime pro tags have blue eyes.
You absolute bastard!
I'm the worst. I know. It's more that there's not enough detail. They're not big enough. The dimensions of the face are off. When they talk with their mouths, their lower jaw is always animated as well. They animate on like 3s and not like at times like 5s or 6s, and there's a fluidity difference in the way that they employ some of this. It's almost, and I dare say, some scenes don't feel cheap enough, where it's just the mouth moving. There's always given a little bit of extra movement on screen. And aside from all of this, I think the true thing is how on model everything stays until it intentionally doesn't. Like, if you look at an anime, how off model they go or on model it seems like the genuine artifact. It's like the entire design language top to bottom. They're choosing in a lot of Western quasi anime shows to, now is the time to do an anime moment. Now is the time to do the kawaii desu face, like the little, like kind of do a uwu face or something like this, or the big eyes, or do this particular thing. It's not part of the design language, it's an accent to the design language.
So what I'm gathering from you is you think that the Western animators are actually better than the Eastern animators.
I think they use their money more flatly, and also they're better. You heard me here first. Absolutely. It's different. It's apples and oranges. It feels like their entire budget, like you have this exact amount of money for every single episode across the board. They're using money in places and frames in places where I would expect anime to save there for something else. They're lacking in some areas where I think an anime would go full fucking Sakuga. Do I think the show's animated great? Absolutely. It fucking looks awesome. And I think there are times that I'm like, yeah, that character's anime as fuck. But there's other times there's characters and I'm like, yeah, that feels like old 2000 Justice League kind of thing. Like close, but not quite.
Yeah, so it definitely does not feel like a departure from the original like WB style at all. They just, I think, added in a few kawaii desne kind of moments.
There's accent moments, right? Yeah.
I hadn't really noticed like the jaw thing, but I think they've always been pretty solid about that. Even like old school, like even more brick shit house version of Superman. I think his whole square ass jaw will move.
Yeah.
You know, his skyscraper sized jaw.
His absolute like the real thing that cuts through steel. The Man of Steel is named after his jaw for
exactly.
sure. It's what it is, and you look at if you go back and if you've seen it or not seen it, give it a look. Like look at some anime dialogue scenes, and I've noticed too as well that they do like pan shots, zoom ins. There's different like almost traditional camera effect usages that I think are employed in Western animation that would not be a thing in anime. Like there's pan-ins, there's kind of pan-overs, there's zooms, there's certain types of cuts that like...
I think they benefit a lot from WB not just being an animation studio.
Absolutely. I think the overall quality of the show is heightened by these things. But to make it, does it anime question, I think it actually detracts a bit from the aesthetic of anime. The way it pans, the way it zooms, it feels like you're using a camera.
You're right. It's just too good.
It's just too fucking good, dude.
Right.
But I will say...
I mean, he doesn't have a smartphone that gives him access to all his harem, so like...
Can we even really... This shouldn't even be on the fucking list without something like that.
Is Superman not a slime boy?
Is he absolutely not on the gram,
He's
on
a
the
salamander?
Daily? Yeah. Is he Karen? He's not just sliding in the DMs. He goes around the world to absolutely skid into those bitches. Yeah. But I will say, OP and ED, holy shit.
I think they rip.
That shit rips, and it looks very fucking anime, dude. Gotta say.
One thing I wanted to say is... what I think would be interesting and cool if they do like a season 2 of this, which I think they might have already green lighted.
I'd be so in. Yeah.
It'd be very interesting if they gave like Mappa the same amount of money for one episode. Just say like do a Mappa episode, like a Star Wars Visions. Or Sex, Love, and Robot or whatever that is.
Yes, like an anthology. I would just say give them a fight scene or two, like a pivotal fight.
Well, I just think it'd be interesting to see what, like, stylistically a traditional anime studio would change.
I would love to see it, especially if they, slip just one episode into the season where Mappa is like, here's a pretty thick budget for a 22-minute episode. Go ham and see what happens.
Right. Like, you recall I mentioned in the Immortal King show where they did that one episode where they went through like all the different types of animation and they just like slowly like step through the years essentially. It'd be very interesting to see if like say they go to the Phantom Zone, they like fully switch animation style.
Ooh.
It would be pretty incredible. Or Bizarro World.
Let's get you in the fucking writer room.
Say you go to Bizarro World and you just give it to a whole new studio to do.
That would be wild. And then you have like a mini arc of like just a couple eps.
Right.
Just in the Bizarro World.
I just think like that kind of thing would be an interesting way to integrate like traditional anime, which they are obviously going after. And I think even in the byline of the like show, they say like a Japanese anime inspired like animation style, and like obviously like even Lois Lane is Asian in this, like
oh yeah, she's Korean, like
right, like
it's crazy.
They go for that kind of idea.
And what's funny too is I was looking up some reviews in this, and the tagline on Rotten Tomatoes was, and remember, Rotten Tomatoes is owned by the Big Mouse himself, so I think this might be like an official press thing. Oh boy. They said that the Superman, a refreshing retelling of the Superman origin story with dazzling rom-com and a shonen anime paint job. So it's clearly being marketed to the world over as anime inspired at the very base. Shonen is being thrown around here, which is technically what this kind of is. And so I think at the end of the day, if you were to, gun to my head, does this anime? I think it's yes. I think it's a soft yes. And I think here's the thing. If you told me Justice League Unlimited does it anime, I'd probably tell you maybe a soft no. I think it's on just barely the other side of the fence. I think we have enough here that we are now crossing the threshold from a WB Western animation aesthetic into an anime territory where I can verifiably like at least put my flag in the ground with a couple asterisks.
I mean, I
but
still
not big
think
ones.
you still feel like Danny Phantom every now and then.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like art style almost.
right? Like you're still getting like this is following a Western rubric, but it's going a bit enough into the off model with a studio that is very well equipped with trying their best to emulate anime. From Studio Mir has been trying this shit forever. Legend of Korra, considered an anime by many. Voltron, same thing. Lookism, same thing. Same studio. So they are not in themselves new to trying to emulate this style. I think they're getting extremely, I wouldn't even say extremely close. They have breached the divide, but just barely. So yes, this does anime. I'd like to see it go further. Yeah,
I think it does anime as well. I think one thing that I always do when we try to do an episode like this is I try to watch the credits and just see how many Japanese-esque names are on there.
Did you pick any out?
There's like a whole section that's exclusively like Asian names.
Sick. Okay.
Like essentially like a block of just Asian names.
Okay.
So kind of an interesting thought, right, is like sometimes people just consider it has to be from Japan or like a Japanese studio needs to be involved, right?
Of course.
And so, like, for instance, Castlevania is from Germany, but they did have like an entire section that was exclusively like Japanese individuals.
Yeah, I think it was Powerhouse Animation, but they famously interact with and take notes and references from purely Japanese animation studios, which I think, to your point, you may have just come up with the next, I think, step in how we merge Western and Eastern animation. Is what you just said, right? Have a mini arc, throw it to a Mappa or throw it to a Bones, and just give them, hey, here's some WB motherfucking money. Here's a 2 or 3 episode arc we want you to animate. Here's the story leading up to it. You already have literally 90 years of inspiration of comics to base your shit off of.
Go to town,
Go
Miyazaki.
to fucking town, dude. Yes. So I think that's the next step. Bring them into the fold. They don't have to be doing the whole thing if that's not something WB wants. That doesn't mean they can't have their moment in the spotlight. And everyone had been watching this for a season and a half.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it goes full Bones, full Mappa.
I think it would like definitely change the conversation we're having, and it would be kind of a fun look. I'm not saying it could be executed well. It might suck ass.
Who knows?
But even in like Batman Ninja, there's like entire literally like scenes that switch entire animation styles, right?
Yeah.
Like I think back to the watercolor switch and stuff like that.
So good.
That I think did a great job and was a lot of fun. And that's kind of what I'm looking for in the future, to see like more of the blending.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I really want to get rid of the WB style in general. Like I've always really enjoyed it. I think it is like a trademark of Western animation, and so I don't want to lose that. I don't want to say like, oh, anime master race kind of thing.
I agree with you, but would you at least agree that there is some happy medium we are approaching here? That like keeping the
getting near the event horizon.
the singularity of animation, right? Where it doesn't feel like it's borrowing from anime. It's actually leveraging the entire design aesthetic. I think somewhere between Justice League Unlimited and like a My Hero Academia, somewhere in the middle is where I'd like to see just a global idea of like a rubric, and WB could lead that charge. For now, we are in the right direction. We're not quite there yet, but it is enough for me to say it does anime, I think. Would you like to give the first half of the season just a light score that could change? Maybe we'll do a full review.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this show is hard to put down. It's a lot of fun.
I'm gonna give it like an 87 so far. I was gonna say 86. I'm right there. It's mid to high 80s. Like it definitely. There are moments in the narrative where it's a little campy, but I think superhero narratives do have a bit of license to get that way. But this is way lighter on that than a lot of superhero shit that you've seen in Western media, and I think it does a very good job of retelling these characters with how did Rotten Tomatoes put it? A shonen anime paint job.
Right.
Can't
I
hate
think
that.
if Superman gets his harem, that could really help the score.
Give Kal-El his harem, his earthlings, baby.
And then maybe like a regression, he dies and starts back over. Just like kind of all the like
To
mainstays.
regalvanize the harem.
Right.
Like he dies but comes back and they're like, babe, you're back. And he's like, I'm back, babes.
No,
And-
he just does it differently and gets more chicks the second time.
oh my God, he doesn't galvanize, he refortifies.
Yeah.
He basically builds upon his foundations.
Exactly right.
Oh, and they're better. God, I hope there's a season 2.
Yeah.
Like, that's all we're looking for. But thank you to coming to this Does It Anime episode. If you want to discuss if this show actually does anime in your opinion or not, like I said up top, patreon.com/weebology, $1 and up gets you into the Discord with all of the past guests and the lovely Patreon folk that are in there. $3 and up gets you the syllabus sidebar, our lo-fi, high vibe, sometimes anime, sometimes not, almost always on hiatus as of lately show where we talk about life and things, but at least there's over 30 hours of content there for you to listen to at this moment. If you'd like to contact us or go peruse some of our nice merch, weebology.com, you get a little content tree of all the places you can contact us and see some of our sweet mugs. Not necessarily our faces, but literal mugs.
Yeah, like actual drink
mugs
containers.
you can sip things out of. And like, comment, and subscribe to any of those things. And guys, we're in the peace-loving era of Professor Ricky time. I know you're in a platform, sweeties, students. I know you're there.
What the fuck?
I know you're there. Over and down, 218 plus episodes where you can like listen to literally anything about anime.
I think
Literally
there's
anything.
219 additional episodes to the one that we are on right now.
Holy shit! That's not even counting the extra credit series we did that one
Absolutely
time.
right.
Holy shit! But yeah, I think that is it. It's a late one. If only I were Superman, so I could power through my evening like a god. I'm tired right
it's
now.
pretty. It's definitely late.
I need the power of the sun. But until I can charge my powers with the frequencies of a yellow star, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Ethan.
And this has been Weebology. Deuces! I am Superman. I'm just at night.
I'm Bizarro World Superman.
We have to fight now. We just have to fight. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Fine.